Okay.
And now let's see who accepts it. Twitch has accepted the stream.
That's ideal.
YouTube has accepted the stream. Waiting for Facebook. And Facebook has accepted the stream. Let's make sure it's official. There it is. Okay, do you want me to send you the link or should we start the show?
Do you need the link, John?
Yeah, to put on Facebook.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll send it to John. Can I send it through Facebook Messenger, John?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right, let's see here. So we go over here. And then we go here. And there you guys are. Oh, you're going to tell us about the Julie and Jane's book, huh?
Yeah.
Nice.
If I can, yeah. Hopefully.
And we turn off my sound. All right, we copy the link. Now we send it to John.
Okay.
Oh, there's two John Farellos.
Oh, yeah, the one with the
With the picture?
with the picture, yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
That confuses even me because sometimes I get kicked out of my own account
the
and I
ha-
go back. I
Did
go
a
back.
hacker copy you?
No, it's at some point I created another profile of myself.
Yeah.
So there's some people I know on there who who I only see once in every couple of months when I accidentally go on there.
Yeah.
And I actually, but they're yeah.
You should have got the message.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, share. Aha. Oh, ideally, okay, I'm sharing.
Share it away.
With the public.
Tell me when you're all shared up.
Hopefully I am. Yes, it's okay. It is being shared presently.
Okay, here we go. When the timer says on the air, you're on the air, okay?
Okay. Welcome to Small Talk Big Thoughts with Matt and John. I'm Matt.
And I'm John.
Welcome to the show. And we're, as you can see, wearing our Eclipse glasses.
That's right.
Because this is our first show, or at least recording since the eclipse. So how was your eclipse, John?
It was very nice. I was with your mom in Chautauqua, or Cattaraugus rather.
Chautauqua.
Rather. Yeah, and it was a little bit cloudy, but I was able to see the clouds parted very briefly. I saw the total eclipse, and it went dark. And our brother-in-law, Ray, was the man of the hour. He came out dressed as a dinosaur and started scaring the children and chasing them around.
Was that part of the eclipse, or he just came out dressed as a dinosaur?
It was part of the eclipse coming out thing.
Huh.
And he came out during it. It was pretty shocking.
I wonder what the dinosaurs would have thought of the eclipse. Because I think we knew it was coming, but what about before people would, or animals, or what knew it just happened? I think you'd be freaked out.
I think they would have been freaked out because they don't know. Yeah. And I always heard stories of, like, in the past there would be battles going on where they would there would be an eclipse, like right during the battle.
That's true, because people would just be living their lives and then it would happen. So yeah.
They would, like, I know the Chinese would bang gongs because they thought a dragon was eating the moon, because dragons do that, and they thought they would bang gongs and make all sorts of noise to scare the dragon away.
Yeah, the spirits and the energies.
And actually it worked, because the sun would come back.
Well, yeah, whatever you did during the eclipse would work to make it go away. But yeah, I just got back from Texas. I was in Texas for the eclipse in Waco.
What were you doing there?
I was driving and I picked up a second sheepdog. So the second sheepdog was located in the totality.
Great.
And so I drove from Phoenix. I left Phoenix Sunday morning and then drove from Phoenix to Waco, Texas, and got there. I got there as the eclipse had begun, so it was like 20 minutes deep when I got there, and then
neat.
Parked, made it to totality. So even the whole experience of driving to Waco, since I was driving from the west, I actually drove through was driving through the totality where the totality was coming. So I got to see a bunch of small Texas towns where there was a bunch of tourists, like,
Oh, neat.
kind of packing the town. And yeah, it was nerve wracking because I got half cloudy, half sunny skies.
Yeah.
But on the way there, when I left for my rain, Texas, and it was like when I left, it was like super cloudy, so I was kind of fearful. So yeah, I was content with my eclipse experience. The glasses. I mean, it was cool to see them through the glasses, but I actually ended up just looking at the eclipse with my bare eyes through a cloud, and it was I could see the actual circle. That
I did the same thing. I was like, okay, yeah. I was going back and forth, and like, yeah. I didn't go blind, so
yeah, my eyes are still working. So,
yeah. But
yeah.
Tell us about that new dog.
Yeah, so I have a second sheepdog now,
Ooh.
and we drove from then Waco to Buffalo. So I drove through, from East Texas up to Arkansas, and then Arkansas to Memphis, Tennessee. Stayed there for a day, in motels, and then went from Memphis to Cincinnati, where I had some Cincinnati chili at a Cincinnati chili parlor.
Oh, nice.
And then I drove from Cincinnati to Chautauqua to Buffalo. So I made it, and it went about as good as you could imagine. So even when I left from Waco I left from Jacksonville, Texas, in the morning, and it was it started thundering and thundering and heavy rain for I essentially compared to like lake effect snow, but this was like Louisiana rain. So I drove through a flash flood, and it was like I was thinking I wasn't going to be able to make it.
That was coming back?
Coming back from Waco to Buffalo. So then once I picked her up, then I had to drive through, and I had 2 days, and then Ohio was a tornado warning. So I had 2 full 8-hour driving days of just torrential downpour.
How did the dog react to that?
Good. She was, she traveled really well in the car. We had to carry her, lift her in the car, but then once I got her, I had to force her out of the car to take bathroom breaks and stuff.
That's nice.
Because she grew up on a farm, so it was kind of so even things like she never walked on a leash before, and even my first night at a motel in Jacksonville, Texas, I couldn't get her to come out of the car because I was in a motel, and we were backed up to a transit road essentially, so it was super busy and not urban, but there was a lot of commotion, so she was very nervous. But yeah, she did well, and we stopped in Texas. It was raining, but we stopped in Texarkana. Ooh. I think it was Texas, but the border of Texas and Arkansas.
Whoa.
Stopped at Mammoth National Park in Kentucky.
Ooh, neat.
For a little bit. But I feel like I got the radio edit road trip.
Oh.
Where I drove through the country, but I didn't really mosey or kind of take my time. But so it was fun. I did a lot of driving, and now a 4-hour drive would be nothing. So
I've been on long trips like that where your brain kind of turns off after a while, and you're just driving and driving.
Even I think, did you ever see Dumb and Dumber, the movie Dumb and Dumber? When,
yes.
So you know how there's that scene where they're driving cross country to Aspen, they stop at a diner, and remember I think it was Seabass where he goes, Seabass over here, and then he leaves Seabass with the tab. But essentially they're traveling and they stop at a diner. Yeah. So I was part of my road trip is I was super excited to pull over to the side of the roads and experience Americana diners.
Yeah.
And then I found out that America is a strip mall. It's just one giant transit road everywhere, every city. So the idea, there are diners, but you can't just pull off to the road and there's one right there. It's kind of you gotta have an inn of, okay, I know I'm going to this specific spot. Cause the Cincinnati chili parlor was the closest. I had Cincinnati chili there at dinner, and then it was so good, and it was the first diner I went to that I came back for breakfast in the morning.
Oh, okay.
So I did stay at a mom and pop diner, but there's tons of Chipotle's and Burger Kings and McDonald's everywhere. But there's no, I don't know,
a unique mom and pop kind of thing.
I guess imagine every little town has diners where there's girls in roller skates, and there's making milkshakes, and it just I don't know. I just grew up on that type of media, and
they are around, but you have to go into the town and find them. You can't
you have to know it's over here. Yeah. So I think that's I think just growing up in the 90s and watching the media, I always kind of envisioned in my head, the American road trip. There's Americana diners everywhere, and Yeah, and this trip made me realize that is a bygone era. The same way that like cowboys are gone. Like it's just a relic of a idealized past of America. Because
Yeah. Pee Wee Herman, that was kind of happened in that movie too, where he would go around and there'd be these unique little, like a little dinosaur park and little diners and.
That's why I think the show Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives is like so popular. So now like we've gone from actually having diners, drive-ins, and dives like everywhere and experiencing to now we just all eat at Chipotle and then like watch it on TV, like other people eating it at diners.
Yeah.
But even the diner, I went in there and like my Cincinnati chili was like $8, and it was like big. And then my breakfast, the same thing. It's like, how is this? Because I was like, how does this place stay in business? Because it was like inflation hadn't hit.
Okay.
Hadn't hit the diners.
Okay. Yeah. Well, in our state, we do get taxed insane amounts.
That's the thing. Even driving, I drove untolled all across America, and then as soon as you get to New York, the 90 is tolled, and like we're just used to that. But that's not. That is like completely bizarre. Like everywhere else, you can drive on the main interstates for free.
Yeah.
Yeah. Except for you get to New York and you got to pay a toll. So there's just certain things that you notice. Oh, this. Even the cost of gasoline was like super cheap in like East Texas, but then as you get up,
cool.
Yeah.
Well, Texas is a gas producing state and all that.
You can see the rigs actually like,
Oh wow!
pumping
Okay.
like the actual mechanical rigs pumping the oil out.
Whoa. Yeah.
But yeah, I am appreciative of our water too. Like seeing, like in Arizona, they call what we call creeks, they call rivers. So like you say, oh, here's the Rio Grande, and you're like, oh, sweet, I'm excited to see it. And then it's like essentially like Ellicott Creek. It's like a small.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, there it's a river. So I'm very appreciative of like our even from Chautauqua to Buffalo, and I just drove on Route 5.
Yeah.
Like you take Route 5 every day, and
Yeah.
like you realize that that's like a national, like that is like a world class view of a giant freshwater body, and we just kind of it's Route 5, but that's like really an incredible view anywhere. So
I do appreciate being in this area, like the forests and all that.
And if when the zombies come, we can all flee to Grand Island, which is your grand plan.
That is my grand plan. Grand Island. Get on there. There's fresh water, rapid water where they can't swim across it, they can't walk across it. We defend 2 of the bridges and we're fine.
I say you get everyone you want onto Grand Island, and you implode the bridges.
Yeah, and then you can have your own society after.
Or you keep one, so you only have to defend at one flank, because as you want to talk about in today's show, some battles, right? It seems like if you were defending Grand Island, you wouldn't want to be spread across 2 fronts, the 2 tolls. You'd want to implode one bridge, then there's only one way in and one way out. Yeah,
and then just have all your defenses right there.
Then you just know, okay, this is the most important. Was it Tenochtitlan or something that when the Spanish came, there was like, I think it was something, I don't know. I'm ignorant. I'm talking about something, but how they would get there.
I don't, but another thing about Grand Island, at one point, they wanted to make it into Israel. There was a preacher there who thought of the idea is like this was before Israel, that the wandering Jews of the world would go to Grand Island. That would be the new Israel, the new Zion.
Yeah, it does kind of. It could be its own nation state because it is completely surrounded by water. And it's between 2 countries, so it would, if you maybe not even a new Jewish homeland, but it could be made into some sort of independent territory. Like if there's ever some sort of fracturing of the United States where each state was leaving the Union, you could actually get to Grand Island and then say, we declare ourselves.
Our little Grand Island,
Even the name now, Grand Island, it could be. It is
it's like, wow. It's like the England of the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
It could be,
Maybe it could be what Niagara Falls should be. Some sort of actually built up economic engine of ecotourism.
It is very bland. Like it could be so much more.
It's just an island with subdivisions. I think there are some farms on Grand Island, but it's not
farms.
I think in one of the perks of living in Grand Island is you get reduced tolls to get over the bridges.
I think don't the Indians own it? Grand
The
Island?
Indians? I don't
Yeah.
think there's any Indian reservations. It's just, I think it's Erie County.
I thought I don't. That's another thing I don't know about. Yeah, but
Something you do know about is bicameral mentality or bicameral
Bicameral
minds.
minds.
Okay,
Okay.
what is this?
okay. There's this guy named Julian James in the 70s, and he wrote a book called "The Origin of Consciousness and the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind."
Okay.
Now, earlier, like you were saying, when you drive, have you ever driven and you kind of forget, like, where you went? Like I drive to work every day, but I forget about it. Like, I don't remember, like, getting in the car, driving.
Like you don't remember every individual commute from your house to work. 'Cause
You don't. It's
But
all,
you remember it very vividly as a thing.
but it's a complex task that I performed, but it was like almost, I was unaware of it. I did all these things. One of the things that Julian James, his hypothesis was that human consciousness
Okay.
is new. Like it's within it.
It is relatively new.
It only came about in the last, like he says, postulates 3,000 years, and before that, mankind were basically schizophrenic automatons who they would do stuff like the way we would drive. They were just doing everything they were doing was unconscious that they would do, like hunting, fishing. But this was the thing. It's what they would do is that they would hear voices that they would call gods or kings that would command them
Okay.
to do things. So like you and me, when we're driving, like if a deer comes across the road, like our brains, we have self. We say, oh, we stop the car. We know because we have consciousness. Back then, people wouldn't know what to do, but they would hear a voice that would tell them what to do. Of a god would say, hunt the deer, or whatever. It would actually command like these ancient people. To whenever they came up with a novel situation, and one of the things he points to is if you read the Iliad, which is like ancient, like one of the oldest books, like from ancient history. If you read it, almost every character in there is doing something because a god told them to. Achilles is like about to kill Agamemnon, and then a god tells him, "No, don't do that." And like there are parts where like there's no self-contemplation that goes on anywhere in the book, and they say that later on things were added, like by later authors, but they say the base things. And it was all actually the original one was a poem. Everything line.
But I guess my
yeah.
So when they said that human consciousness only originated 3,000 years ago, when he says human consciousness, does he mean kind of like the collective consciousness? Is that what he's talking about? Because how does he, like, what does that? I mean, it doesn't make sense that people 4,000 years ago weren't consciousness, because then modern humans been around now hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah, but they were saying they were like you and me. We were like, if we were back then, we'd be like, oh, gee, why do I hunt? Well, I think I'll gather. I don't feel like gather. I'll hunt. Whereas back then, they didn't really even have a choice. It was more like they would hear everything they were doing was route. It was
autopilot.
Autopilot.
Like they didn't have time to. I think they were more contemplative than modern. I think one of the things that modern humans, I think we're very pompous in how we think we're so like cultured, I guess, than to like I don't know, the cavemen.
Yeah.
But I think people the people, hundreds of thousands of years ago were the exact same because we haven't really evolved for a long period of time. But I think they were.
Yeah.
Have you ever read Fingerprint of the Gods? He's the guy. He's been on Joe Rogan's podcast a bunch, but he talks about how they found some like ancient maps of like Antarctica from like 12,000 years ago, and they're like accurate.
Oh,
so I mean, he postulates that people
are a lot more advanced.
like people were boat faring. I think people were much more in tune with like things like the eclipse and stars, and I think they probably were much more in tune with reality, I guess.
Oh.
But yeah, I think that does make. I mean, how much of even our days do we just kind of spend in these dual states where we're like, if someone just observed you, you're you're doing things, but in your head you're kind of like turned off. You're on autopilot because
Yeah.
you're doing the dishes, but you're thinking about the
Yeah.
Netflix show you watched yesterday. Now,
Yeah.
like, so is that what he means of the bicameral mentality of like having two different states?
Like in that, but he was saying it was more direct. It was more like a god, like there would be like a god of net making that would tell him, make nets now. This is how we make nets. Weave the net together. You know, it's getting dark. You know, there were household gods that would tell them to do household tasks. There were city gods.
Is that kind of like when they were like polytheists? Like now we just have God, like one God,
Yes.
God, or just like people have the God of doing dishes and the God of watching Netflix type of thing.
Exactly. There would be different gods for that. And you know, in polytheistic societies, they do have tons of there's different gods for every different situation, and they look to like you know, different things in literature where they were saying, like, say the Greeks, they would talk about the muses.
Yeah.
Like in the Greeks, they like in a poem they would say, "Oh, talk to me, my own muse."
Like you'd have your own muse that you
And
would talk to.
he interpreted it as that was literal. It wasn't metaphorical. That was a guy actually saying, a voice would come in his head, a muse would talk. It would talk through him.
Well, isn't that kind of
Spirit.
what like creativity is? Like no one really knows what, you know, your own. I mean,
That's what you would say. But he was saying that back in the day, like you would just sit there and wait for like a muse to like just talk through. You wouldn't be aware of it.
so that people almost didn't think that their thoughts were their own. Like whereas now we think there's a God and then there's me, and me is my thoughts. Versus they said there's no singular God, so it's my thoughts are other. Yeah, something speaking through me.
Yeah, they were saying more like that's where they were coming from. I mean, in the Old Testament, and they were saying there was a period of time where, as we became more literate, then we became more conscious, and we started using metaphors. We started dividing things. We had to do things, and there were more complex situations. We weren't just hunter gatherers. We were before. We'd have to only form in groups of 30. Then we would form into big societies where, like, there'd be mice eating the grain, and then you'd have to plant it at a certain time, and then there were different people attacking. So then you'd have to start developing consciousness that we have.
Okay.
And they talk about how there's probably a period of time when society where there were people who were conscious and people were bicameral.
Okay.
So they talk that there's a point in the Old Testament where the rabbis are forbidding people to listen to their familiars, or they were called obes.
Obes.
And there were people who would say, "Oh, that was like, do not listen to the obes. The obes are of the devil. They are they are wicked." And it was like they said, it was like more like the literature, the upper crust. They were basically struggling with people who are getting their instructions from their own personal deities, like the obes or familiars, and they wanted like written down laws, and so everybody would have their own personal god, and it was like there's like differences between people, and there's a Babylonian poem, and that he points to, and the guy in the poem he longs. He goes, I long. The goddess has turned her back on me. No longer does my angel walk next to me. And they were saying this was a guy who was at one point in contact with his bicameral mind, but he was losing that because he was reading, and his thought process was becoming more individualized. And it was like, and there's other things in the Bible where some guy will go like, I long for the voices of gods, like they would be talking to the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh, I can't hear the voices of my gods anymore. And he points to like when Europeans came in contact with the Aztec, they would say the Europeans would say about. And it sounded like it was kind of a prejudiced European thing. They said, "Oh, these Aztecs, they listen to devils that speak out of their statues."
Okay.
But they're saying what he's saying is like, no, they literally would sit there and listen to voices coming out of statues. And they said when you look at some of these statues, where it is, the mouths would be extra big, and the ears would be extra.
It's kind of like those, like this. I just imagine the Stonehenge statues, kind of where they have long faces and the big eyes.
Yeah, and they were saying that's where they would get instructions about their daily lives and how they would formulate, different things, and they were saying there's traces of that in modern humans. They're saying like a little kid might have a an invisible friend, that they talk to and like that they can see but nobody else can see, and they're talking too about schizophrenic people who like will hear voices, who like they actually will hear voices, tell him to do different things. So they're saying these are leftover remnants of bicameralism.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of, I mean, it kind of makes sense in a way. I mean, when you think about, I don't know, when you go, because we kind of evolved from polytheism, right? Or did we?
Yeah.
Right. Then polytheism became monotheism. And I guess I see the way of like, yeah, if everybody has the same God, then it's easier to kind of tell a story. But if everybody has their own God, then everybody's story needs to be.
They're all different. Yeah.
It's much easier that the same way that if instead of having a bunch of diners everywhere, we just make a Chipotle everywhere. So we have one Chipotle. The same. It's much easier to feed people than it is to have a bunch of different diners that all have to, import.
Yeah.
Because I think that was one of my big worries, and I think I see it too with the internet, kind of moving towards like a monoculture of like you're going to go to Bangladesh or Amherst or El Paso, Texas or Brazil, and it's going to be the same. Yeah, it's going to be transit road. It's going to be a strip mall everywhere.
Yeah,
and the internet too. I mean, I think they already say that like there's languages that are just going extinct because everybody's just like speaking English. So we're going to go towards where like you either speak English or Chinese, and there's going to be no other. So I think I just see, humanity. I mean, I can't really think 1,000 years in the future, but I don't know. This kind of makes me think of that same way. I mean, the whole, what you're saying about the bicameral mind. Like, I don't know if society to organize people makes it easier if everybody's listening and believes in the same story versus everybody believes to their own, believes that they're their own individual reality based on what their own God tells you. Because okay, if you have one God with 10 rules, then you can say, "Hey, you're breaking that rule." But if you
and it's written down somewhere,
but if you say, "Hey, you're breaking that rule," you could say, "Well, my God told me that's not a rule." Then if everybody's,
and another thing they would do too in ancient societies when they would attack each other, one of the things they would do, they would capture the big thing to capture their city god, and then take it. Like they would take the statue of Moloch, and they would take it over to Babylon and put it in the statue.
Kind of like capture the flag a bit.
Yeah, you would capture their god,
and then you'd get to hear their voice, the voice of that god.
I think then your god would then rule that god, I guess. Apparently, or it was a way to
It's kind of like capture the flag for war. Like I feel like that's something they've. I mean. The whole trench warfare and like, why should we have wars where we're killing people? Like, if we had a war where it's just okay, there's a flag in Texas and there's a flag in, I don't know, in Siberia, and each side, it's not about killing people; it's about literally capturing that flag and getting it back to your territory. Then war would be, it would be funner, it'd be more peaceful, and we would still get our competitive urges and violent nature to express itself. But
I would like if we could all agree to just fight in computers. That would be really cool.
That could get pretty. That could, I don't know. Fighting with computers could be bad because then you could hack things and turn things off, or run boats into bridges, or
Well, I'm thinking like a massive, but more like a massive,
a video game,
like a massive video game, like Halo or
what is the one the kids like now? Minecraft, or something where everyone logs in. Okay, we're doing World War III. Everybody log in at 9.
There's 1,000 people in a battalion, and they're like, "Hey, there," and
and you don't respawn once you get shot, or your character's energy goes all the way down. You don't respawn, then you're just out.
I'm sure those things have happened, like in World of Warcraft and stuff. There probably has been thousands of casts of people doing that, but I like a war game version of that,
Yeah.
where it's like bazookas and guns.
Well, I mean, video games are making people. I think they're making people. Individuals are making more violent because it's kind of making violence normalized. But on a mass cultural level, it might be making us less violent because think of all the energy that instead of people in the past might go and start causing a ruckus and being violent, they're literally just smoking marijuana in their basement and playing video games. So there's lots of energy that just gets focused on video games versus actual. Violence in actual reality, physical reality versus violence in
I like a lot of these cultural diversions that we have because I think they are kind of good. It probably keeps us from screwing up a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but at the same time, then things like voting. Yeah, I mean, all sorts of things. Yeah, it makes it easier for people to take power because people aren't paying attention. So, I mean, one thing I also think I should share is that before I left for Texas, I petitioned to be a committee man.
Oh, okay.
So
Cool.
the Democratic Committee for Fillmore 16 in the city of Buffalo. So I am on. I think right now my petition has been accepted by the Erie County Board of Elections.
Great. Okay.
And each ward gets 2 representatives, and I'm the only person that petitioned. So I think I just become committee man. I don't even think I.
Oh, great.
Unfortunately, I wanted to see my name on the ballot, like an actual ballot with a circle. But I think I just become the committee man.
Okay. Cool. Great.
Guess how many? Guess how many signatures? So to form a petition.
Yeah.
You have to get signatures. So how many signatures do you think I needed to become a committee man?
I would. Well, I know the cities are smaller, so maybe like 1,000. Or
I needed 5 signatures.
Oh wow! Okay.
Because you need 5% of the registered Democrats in your ward.
Oh.
So there's only 89 registered Democrats. My little ward is super small. So I needed 89 Democrats. So I only needed 5 signatures. So what I did is I handed in 2 pages with 6 signatures each. Because sometimes, especially in Erie County elections, what they'll do is they'll like say, "Oh, that one signature is wrong. Now your whole page doesn't count." So that's why I did 2 separate pages, 6 signatures each. We have a comment. It says, "Congratulations! How can there be a committee of just one person?"
Oh.
So I'm one representative for one. So this is the Erie County Democratic Committee. So each city, each ward. So I'm one of like many committee people. But I'm the only committee person that represents Fillmore 16. So there's like a Fillmore 1, Fillmore 2, Fillmore 3. Like Hamburg has an Erie County. There's Hamburg's ultimately like broken up into different election districts. So each of those districts has 2 people. So I'm just one person representing one little neighborhood. So essentially what the committee does is when our politicians resign or go to different jobs, which they seem to be doing in higher numbers now.
Oh, okay.
Then this committee, instead of having the people vote, this Democratic committee endorses people, and then those candidates that this committee endorses become the candidate. So I don't know if you're familiar with our U.S. Senate or the U.S. Congressman Higgins.
Oh yeah, what about him? Yeah.
So Brian Higgins resigned in February.
Oh.
And he's been the congressman for 19 years, but he had 10 months left on his term. So instead of just finishing out his term, he decided to just retire to run a theater. So he runs the Shays Theater.
Oh, okay.
So we've had at least where I am. I don't know who your congressperson is, but I have been unrepresented since February.
Okay.
And they're holding a special election where Tim Kennedy is the only endorsed candidate running for that seat because this Erie County Democratic Committee has appointed him. Yeah. So I am of the opinion that it was kind of, a ploy to like, okay, I'm retiring. Let me retire early so that we can have this special election where instead of having a bunch of races or a bunch of people in the race, we can kind of get my chosen candidate, buddy, who this Democratic Committee will just appoint. And now he'll essentially be the incumbent for when there's the actual election. So if my council member of the Fillmore in the city of Buffalo, he got elected to a second term, and like a month after he got elected, he said, "I'm running for state senator," which he didn't get endorsed, but he's already like looking to get other positions. So that's why I want to represent my neighborhood. So if the person resigns, then I might have a little voice in
neat.
seeing who would be the
Yeah.
congressperson.
Yeah. Cool. Okay.
So that's our politics. So we've talked
cool.
about religion, talked about
politics?
politics.
Yeah.
Even the bicameral mind, when you think about our politics, like at least in the city, there's no Republican Party in the city. It's just the Democratic Party. So it's kind of this divergence of, from many, but, let alone libertarians or green parties. Yeah. So having many things to going to one. Yeah.
But shouldn't the Democratic Party then maybe start to break apart? Shouldn't there be like a more conservative and a more liberal? Like, shouldn't that start to even fractionalize? I would assume how human nature is like. Oh, we're the.
Well, the thing is, like, the Democratic Party is, at least in the city too, is then like, essentially, if you're involved with politics, you just become a Democrat because then all the candidates that run are Democrats. So if you just decide to be a Republican, you really don't have no political. Engagement at all.
Yeah. Gee, yeah. Oh wow. It's like I mean, but if you're Republican, there's really nowhere to go.
Yeah,
it's a tough city to be. Yeah.
Well, then I don't know how Hamburg is, but other areas. But yeah, it's just kind of interesting too, because even the candidates were getting the same. So I just think there's a lot of things in our society that are just going from many to one. Everything's becoming monopolized. Yeah.
Yeah.
So back to the bicameral mind. So what is I kind of feel like I get the nature of it, but what's his theory of like, why does this matter? What's the point of it all? Or is he just observing and describing?
He's observing and describing. Like, I don't know the point. Boy, it's kind of it's a cool idea. That's the thing. And there's different disciplines, like archaeology and psychology, where they might confirm certain things happening. Like they did confirm that. Well, there's a Bronze Age collapse. This is another thing. There's a Dark Age. Like in the Bronze Age, things were going great. People were making bronze all the time, having a good time. Archaeologists could look at everything. But then it seemed like there was a cascade of cultures collapsing all at once. He says it had a lot to do with the changeover from people's mentality of being from doing everything bicamerally to then losing the voices of their gods, therefore like the voices of their kings. Like they were saying a lot of the voices too were king driven. Like they would see
the king's ober.
Or like they say a lot of them, like if you're in a tribe of 30 people, the one leader of that tribe, you would hear his voice.
And he might have it was an ob.
Well, I think in ob was a familiar like of like in say like in the Jewish language.
Yeah, I see.
So I think they were probably all different for different cultures. Different people like we call it ob, and then in other things like they would have a different idea. But they say a lot of it was around leadership. Like the king would either the god would talk through the king.
Yeah.
Or the god directly, or the god could hear the king, the king could hear God, and they would be like.
I see. I feel like the monotheism it's much easier way to control people and subordinate people. If people say I'm the king and the god that we all believe in speaks to me stronger than everyone else because I'm the king and the god says this, and then everyone's I'm a peasant, he's a king. He can hear my god.
Yeah.
So I feel like it.
They were saying, but they're saying more back then. Yeah, they would actually hear the voice. They would be like, you would be like, I just heard.
Would be. Yeah, and I guess we kind of just we all still have voices in our head, right? Like you talk to yourself, or like if you think, you just associate that voice with yourself. So I can see.
Yeah.
You're almost attaching. What I view that voice as me, but I can see how in another world. That voice isn't. I'm just.
Yeah.
I'm a meat box that is puppeteered by some deity.
Yeah, and like they were saying, even like going through ancient Greek, where the words meant different things. Like the word psyche. Now we it's more for the mind, but back then they were saying psyche when it was written in the Iliad. It just meant blood. And there's other words like I think it was like thumos, and that was in the modern it means mind, but back in the thing it just meant movement. So they would write things. Modern interpreters would think, they're talking about psyche and mind, but no, they're just talking about the way they describe things is very spooky. Like in the Iliad, if you do read it, it's a weird poem, or like it's just bodies moving around. You know, it's very creepy the way.
Because it's literally you're trying to prescribe language to something, and there's misinterpretation over.
Yeah.
Because that's what I imagine too when the Native Americans and just settlers came and they're like, "Oh, we'd like to buy the land from you?" And like since the Native Americans just literally didn't. Yeah, there was no land. They didn't understand the actual concept of ownership. So
one thing the other also gets into is that people with bicameral mind, they don't lie. They don't understand lying. They're just and they're saying like I know the Medes. That's one reason, or the Persians would hate the Greeks because they were like the Greeks lie, and they didn't really understand that, and it was really like it was because they just couldn't get their mind around it. But the Greek mind was, as it evolved, it became more like they're used to like things like trickery and like metaphor, and they were able to act one way and do something different. Where they're saying that bicameral people didn't do that.
But does the author think that every single human on Earth in 2024 does not have bicameral mind? Is it something that all of humans have acquired, or is it something of even now there's enlightened, conscious people, and there are still people operating with bicameral mind today?
Well, I think it's here that we're all conscious now. I mean, he doesn't. That's another thing. Like I would like to see more research into like more hunter-gatherer people, like interviews with people, because they have to be out there.
Yeah, well, I think the last of them, there might be like a handful of them in the Amazon, but they pretty much, I think pretty much contacted everybody. It's crazy to me that there are still people that are uncontacted in the Amazon and the tribe. And it's just crazy because I didn't even think there's. They started doing LiDAR, and they think they might be starting to find like ancient civilizations and like in Brazil and in the Amazon that just. The Amazon, they think. I mean, there's some theories that it might actually be like a human-designed edible landscape that then just overgrew things versus okay. Because they're starting to find things like actual structures there, and even that the Amazon's like such an unexplored area, so they've started to do like the LiDAR with like radars to kind of
like they could see where there's different structures. And
so they're like finding structures, and even when you think about like was it the Mayan pyramids. And I know, just the fact, because even there, I think there's something that it just echoes, and it's like built with the sound in mind. So I think,
they were saying a lot of that was done for bicameral purposes. That they were just like, was like a structure that the society needed.
Yeah, so I think I even like. I mean, again, having those kind of like a vision in my head of it, like it would be nice to be a bicameral person, just be in tune with nature, and like the eclipse, and be like, part of the thing. Versus, I think the modern person is very, I don't know,
the magic goes out of things,
especially with like the internet. Do you think we're going through some sort of bicameral moment now of like people look back and be like, people back before the internet, they thought they were their own people, and now they're actually
like our brains are adjusting to computers now. We're interacting. We are interacting different. You can tell, like with Facebook. And everything.
I think even if you take the singularity to be true, that the singularity is happening. Yeah. So we are moving towards one thing. Yeah. We're losing our individuality and our sense of.
Which I'm against. Yeah. I want to keep all the individuality, but
how do you? Respect because I feel like that's the bicameral too, or even with a king or whatever. Like, how do you respect everyone individually, but then how do you also organize everybody into one kind of thing that hopefully works for everybody and makes everybody's lives better? I think that's what the government set out to be. But it's a fascinating theory. It's like something they can't really prove. Yeah, it's just more of an observation.
Yeah, I guess, or a thought experiment. You know, maybe it was like kind of true. You know.
So when you're driving on your Tesla commute, do you consider that like your bicameral?
Well, it's kind
state.
A lot of times doing work, I'm just doing things like my hands are doing stuff, and I'm doing something else. You know, there's a lot of times where I work, or I listen to podcasts.
Yeah,
I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I could do a lot. I could like my hands. I could just do a lot. I don't even know I'm doing it. I forget I'm doing it.
Well, even when we started the show and I had these eclipse glasses on and I just put them on and you literally cannot see anything. But it's even just me just staring straight ahead into the glasses. It made me realize like, oh, there's a fan up here that's going around. Like all these things in the periphery that my brain's taking in, but I just don't. I'm in a bicameral state to like everything going on around me. Because even now I'm doing this, but like everything else in the room or whatever is like out of sight, out of mind. So it's kind of like on autopilot. I guess.
They say that's a funny thing about consciousness is it's like a flashlight. Like say you have a flashlight, but you want to try to look at something in the dark. You can't. You know, you can't. A flashlight, you can't see something in the dark. It's always going to be a light right at it. You know.
Yeah.
You're only going to see what's in the flashlight. You can't see it.
I see. So you have to. But then even when you broad the flashlight out, then you can't really see anything well. Versus when you have a high beam right on that spot, and you can see exactly what's there.
Yeah, but you can't see anything else. You know, like there's a great game, Mario Castle.
Mario Castle. Is that Super Mario?
No, I think it was Mario's Haunted House. Is you were Mario going through a haunted house, but you could only see, you would go through a room, and the whole room would be dark. But you just see Mario walking around, and there'd be like weird things in the dark as Mario would go around. Like it was pretty fun.
Huh.
I mean, Mario doesn't get big.
Well, Super Mario Kart is like, that's probably one of the best. I think that's, I mean, for people of my generation, that's the best video game of all time. It's Super Mario Kart on N64.
To me, it'll be Super Mario Smash Brothers.
Yeah, Smash Brothers.
Bazonk.
Yeah.
I love that.
What was the experience of video game? The first time you played a video game? Like, where were you? What were you doing? What was it like?
Well, I remember seeing Pong. Well, it started off slow with Pong.
So you saw, did you see Pong first or did you play it?
I think we got it. It was something like you heard about through your friends, and
it was the talk of the town.
Then we got it. We got the thing. Of course, Pa would break down and get the thing. Then the next thing was, dun dun dun, Space Invaders. I thought that was the coolest.
Is that the one where the things at the bottom and it shoots up the comets and
it
stuff?
It was the coolest thing when we were kids, and it was like incredible.
I could imagine, yeah. It was just left, right, shoot, and I could, yeah.
Yeah, and they'd be in arcades, and I was like always amazed. Like, you'd put a quarter in, but then there would be handheld games, which were little cheap digital games, which they would still excite you as a kid. And once you got them, you'd then get bored of them. But then they did get Atari.
That's when the Japanese always come in and they have some sort of pop cultural phenomenon that they just come in with, and it just blows the Westerner's mind. Whoa,
that was great, just having it in your house. But the controllers, they would murder you.
It was just the joystick, right?
They had no concept of ergonomics, and you really would hurt your wrist. You'd be like, and there'd be a button, and
it wasn't, even just the controller. You hold an Xbox controller, and it's like it was almost an extension of your hand. It's built literally ergonomically. Yeah. There's engineers that devote their whole life.
They thought about that,
hand design and how it sits in your hand, which they should be. It's, it makes a difference.
Like when you as a kid, you'd go nuts. You're like, I'm gonna die.
Yeah, left, straight, left, up, down, jump.
Yeah, and it was just. But it was funny about the computer games back then is. You can kind of see the programming while you were playing, which is weird. Weird to say because like there would be like there's this game called Adventure, and like the dragon would look kind of like a castle, and there'd be like everything looked. You could tell them where they were. Like the programmer was like counting pixels.
Yeah,
because everything was so small that they had to keep things small. They'd have to count. Like the
bit size. They actually have to think, okay, I could make this thing this way, but it will take up more RAM on my
exactly. So
16
it was
kilobyte flash drive.
2-dimensional with cheap 2-dimensional graphics, and they had to keep them so small. Like the graphics would be like they would have a magnet that would look like a bat, and it was yeah. If you ever play Adventure, you would see what I'm saying.
Yeah,
you could tell like every little screen almost looked exactly alike. And
I feel like I'm moving towards some sort of not a video game, but I feel like now that I'm in my house with my lot, I almost feel like every day I've started since I got back on my trip, like playing a video game on my lot where I'm making my lot better. So I've even enjoyed.
Oh, that's good.
I'm going to start, I think, studying like permaculture of like.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah, I want to start growing stuff. So even I think I'm going to start building my and yeah, they just had Big Garbage Day in the city, which I think it should be made an official city holiday because it was like it was like Christmas Day. It was like big resource day for me because somebody literally just people on Big Garbage Day would just throw big garbage out. So I mean, somebody threw out. I'm not even joking. Probably I got about 4 dozen 2x4s, like 6 foot long 2x4s, which each at Home Depot they're like $4. Like it was just so the amount of resources I was able to dispose of and collect, and even I had these 2 large. I mean, a snowblower and like a tiller, and they had to be like at least 150 pounds, but they were all rusty and their wheels didn't operate, so I had to drag them out of my garage. Yeah. So I dragged it out of my garage, put it on the front of my house, and within 3 minutes, scrappers. So it's I started singing a song.
Yeah. I kind of like that. I like that we can throw stuff out. Somebody could make something out of it.
Well, yeah, the scrappers take it to the scrapper. I knew it was worth it, but like these guys, there's 3 guys in like work suits with a pickup truck. It's like great. That's what they are. So it's like it was perfect. Plus, I started singing a song called "God Bless the Scrappers." So I was actually singing to myself, "God bless the scrappers, God bless the scrappers, God bless the scrappers of the USA. Oh, God bless the scrappers, God bless the scrappers. They took my albatross away. Hey, yeah. So I was singing that song the whole day because I literally these things were in my garage and they were just taking up space. And they were like literally 300 pounds each. So I was just so glad to see them gone because now I can use my garage.
Yeah.
That's my new song. I think I'm going to turn it into a folk song.
Yeah, that is good. Yeah, I'm so lazy. I have a TV, an ancient TV in my basement. And I will never move. But when I die. You remember this?
Yeah.
You're like, Uncle John talked about this.
This is the TV. Is it one of those?
It's a vacuum TV
with a tube.
With a big tube where it's like it's heavy and it's a weird shape.
Actually, you know how my parents got rid of their massive TV in their basement?
Oh, how did they do?
There's some, I don't know if it was the Boy Scouts or some church group. They're doing some activity where it's like each kid starts with a pencil, and then your job is to keep training it and get like the biggest thing that you can. So they like came to my door with, I don't know, like a hat or something and said, "Hey, do you have anything bigger?" It wasn't a hat, but it was something. They're like, "Do you have anything bigger than this?" And they're like, "Oh, do we ever have something big for you?" So they took them down to the basement. These 2 like teenage boys just they were like ecstatic. "Yes, look at this massive TV we found."
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if it was some trick or something that somebody was playing, but yeah, essentially they got some free labor to take their TV away.
I remember that TV. And it was great. It was good.
It was cutting edge at its time.
Yeah, but I love these new flat screens.
Well, yeah, flat screens. I mean, it's crazy how everything in society is getting more expensive, except TVs. TVs are like exponentially getting cheaper.
Yeah, that's true. And cameras are getting cheaper. Like I could have a little film camera.
Well, not iPhone 15 now with 4 cameras on the back.
I remember like you'd have I remember Pa, he would have like a film camera and it was like this expensive
on his shoulder, and he was like proud
on his shoulder. Yeah,
and
But now it's on your phone. You can just
Do you remember when Steve Jobs was alive and Apple just like made a groundbreaking invention every like 2 years? They came out with like first it was like the iPod with the scroll wheel. So it went from like a CD player to like having all your music on a little scroll wheel. And then
Yeah.
And then Steve Jobs died. Now we have the iPhone 15 with 3 cameras on the back.
Yeah, I bought it. 3. But what else could they do?
I don't know. What do you if Steve Jobs was alive? I just feel like we'd have way crazier stuff now.
I think we're getting close to in Star Trek when like they would go to a sick person and just go ooh. They would just like do it over their body, like Bones would just do it, and that's like looks like he has a broken bone. So they wouldn't have to.
Yeah. Do you think especially with the bicameral mind, and I think Nietzsche said that the death of God, of like we no longer believe. I mean, obviously there's the church and we like believe in God, or that it's socially acceptable to say that. But I think, do you think we're moving towards some sort of thing where we're replacing God? If we don't believe in God anymore, we're replacing it with something
like
something else, like technology.
Like technology. Yeah, like we can make computers. Computers can get insane in the like realities they can create.
Yeah.
As in like maybe could we download our soul into a heaven or our
then
mind into a
re-upload as like a tardigrade, and then just live forever because you're a tardigrade.
Yeah, or we could just like make like our brain would go into a heaven world which we could make infinite with computing power and stuff.
Yeah,
like
because ultimately we're constrained by our meat box, by this shell.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to brush your teeth every morning. You have to shower regularly or bathe yourself. Like there's all these tasks that you enter by. You've done it so many times now that you just enter a bicameral state when you do it.
You just
so if you could just be software, upload yourself as software.
Yeah. Like just upload your brain into
your soul.
There's a great series called Black Mirror.
I've seen. Yeah,
I recommend that to you. The public,
you, the viewer,
the viewer. You can, just like the idea of, downloading yourself into a heaven, and we can, maybe that's another thing. Computers, what if they become godlike intelligence?
Yeah,
and godlike, where they could like all of a sudden, hey, past, present, future doesn't matter.
And we have comments from our amazing audience that we appreciate deeply. It says, I think human beings' nature is to have faith. It could be faith in God or science or any number of things.
Oh, okay.
And ultimately, no one knows what's going on. We're all here, and we pretend like we know things, but ultimately, no one knows what's going on here. So we just believe what we want to believe or have faith. Because, I guess I just get nervous. Putting your faith in anything blindly, whether it's a god or a government or something, I think, at least the bicameral state, it seems like people would be more in tune with themselves if they had their own deity. You could, sometimes you might get worried that God's just busy with other problems in the world, that maybe your little things in your life, but if you had your own deity that was, only concerned with your life, then, it seems like it would be more efficient, less bureaucracy. Yeah,
that's what they kind of like. It seems like in ancient rites, it seemed like they would have their own personal, like the Mesopotamian guy, a personal angel that would walk beside him. And,
it could be faith in yourself, says our audience. And what if everyone believed in themselves?
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, if you really believe in yourself.
If you really believed in yourself, and because isn't it like the human beings only use 10% of their brains or like their capacity? When you think about it, I remember when I was young, I was like, that's ridiculous. There's no way. Now when I'm older, it's like, wait, actually, because most people are just in kind of autopilot in a lot of ways.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
And if people don't believe in themselves, I don't know if it's their upbringing or their lack of bicameral state, or I don't.
Yeah, people. Yeah, we don't. I mean, people should feel better.
But you believe in yourself. Because I say so.
Yeah.
Believe in me.
Believe in Matt. Matt says so.
Believe in our show.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in. So we have 5 minutes left, whereas we're rounding to the conclusion of the show. Do you have any other pressing moments or anything? How did your cartoon show go?
Oh, it went pretty good. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Our beloved sisters came.
Okay, the sisters are appreciated.
And one of Vinny's friends, two of Vinny's friends showed up. That was nice.
Cool. It's still up.
It's still up, and people could go there. And
I want to go. I wasn't here, so I couldn't go. But now I want to go. Are there any other events? Or is it just hanging on the wall and you won't go back?
It's hanging on the wall, basically. I mean, I wonder how Chris feels about it, but sometimes they do have like the closing show.
Well, I think there should be a celebration when you put the artwork up, and then also should be a celebration when you take it down.
Sometimes they do, yeah. Usually we just go on and take it down. But sometimes we have like a last.
What's your next creative venture that you're...
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be, there's a place called, I think it's called the Story Garage.
Okay, that sounds like a cool place.
And then it'll be me, Chris, Neil Mahar, and Sophie.
Okay.
But the thing is, they have more space, which is good.
Okay. So more cartoons.
This would be more by crazy off the wall art. More
really,
even more adult themes. Or not really adult, but
an after dark story garage.
Yeah, it's just more
the R rated. This is the PG-13 art.
It best it's just naked backs, lady backs. That's about it. Scantily clad ladies. That's about it. Not really nasty.
And I think I'm going to start
weird.
talking about art. I think I'm going to start composing, and recording folk music. So I think my Scrapper song, or I on my road trip, I went to Black Dots Records because they were doing a show on March 31st. They were doing a tribute to the Grateful Dead's 1973 show in Buffalo. So they played like the live recording. So I recommend visiting there. They have amazing CD and vinyl collection. But I picked out CDs of everywhere I was going to be. So like when I left Phoenix, I had a Native American chant music. Then I went out to New Mexico. I had a Sounds of Mexico CD. And then I got to Texas, so I had Texas blues. Louisiana music and bluegrass. So I was like listening to curated audio as I was going. But I listened to a lot of Woody Guthrie and Bob Dylan on my trip. So, but very not produced, but actually just like their self. So I listened to Woody Guthrie and Bob Dylan, and
that's very organic. It's a way to go. It's a way.
And speaking of bicameral, I actually when I drive, I bought my harmonica set, so I had my harmonica on, and I was driving, but I was playing my harmonica, not the whole time, but when I would get bored, I would put my harmonica on and try, because I was like, I'm not good at harmonica, but maybe I can use this time to practice while I'm in this bicameral state of just driving.
When me and my wacky buddy drove across the country, we listened to one tape the whole time. It was Beck Loser. It was, and we played it again and again, and we would smoke like fiends and just listen to Beck, the one Beck album, Loser. We just listened to that, and it was just me and him getting on each other's nerves driving across the country.
Did you? Yeah. I guess I could have done that with Woody Guthrie. I just had his Woody Guthrie song, and I could have looped it. But I was glad I actually bought CDs, and the new car, my rental car, did not have a CD player. So I went to Best Buy, bought an actual CD player, plugged it in, and then only had 2 sets of batteries got me across the country. But it was just, I was glad I did, because in West Texas, there was no radio, so I would just been sitting there. So I was glad to actually have, and I think it did make the landscape. So actually driving and having the music, I've kind of come to learn how the audio on your physical reality actually does enhance or the experience. So
yeah.
So we got a minute left. Any other plugs you want to do? Any upcoming events or crazy things going on?
Crazy things going on? Not with me.
There's acro yoga jams on Saturday, so it started to pick up. But if you want to do acro yoga? Yeah, it's like partner acrobatics, but it could be therapeutic. And Saturday at the Bird's Nest at 3, or it's just an open jam, so you can. It's like a ground-based acrobatics.
Cool. Whoa.
And yeah, that's one thing. And that's one thing we could do. Or, the Sabres just fired their coach.
Oh, dear.
13 years, no playoffs. Longest streak. And, and Buffalo Bills personal seats licenses are costing $50,000 a pop. And Mark Poloncarz is very angry about it.
That's ridiculous.
But he was the one that negotiated the contract. So thank you for tuning in. That's our show. And now you're fading to darkness.
You guys.